What's up, guys? It's Colton, Lindsay here with the Financial Freedom Nation, starting week 3 of the Financial Freedom Nation transformation. I'm super excited to get into this topic. This is actually one of my favorite conversations, and what we're going to get into is something that I used to think was just about like having a ton of fun, which I love having fun. If anyone knows me, that's like the fourth most important core value for me and in my business. And what I've learned and what I've observed is there's actually more than just the reason of having fun, having the nice house, the nice car, the nice vacation, the GTR or whatever it is you guys want to buy. You know, some of you want to buy a nice Mercedes or you want to buy a Lamborghini, or some of you just want to go on a super awesome vacation. Whatever it is, there's also another flip side to that is one of the number one principles, number one rules why I believe it is your right and it's your duty and your obligation to become extremely wealthy and financially free. Okay, and we're going to get into that tonight. So as you guys are hopping on, go ahead and put in the comments where you're from. Give me some reactions if you guys are excited to go into week 3 right now. So to look at what we're going to go over tonight, number one is, I better pull up my notes so that I'm giving you guys the right lesson. Otherwise, I'll be teaching you some stuff that's a bunch of boo-boo-blue. Okay, so far, we've learned several amazing things, and I want to go over what we're going to go over tonight in week 3. Okay, number one is we're going to really get clear on defining what is good debt and what is bad debt, because debt is not necessarily always a bad thing. However, a lot of times we have our debt lined up with our liabilities, and it's a really bad thing. So how can we eliminate that? How can we clear on that and eliminate that and make sure we're focusing on good debt? Okay. Number 2 is we're going to go over the financial freedom savings account. We're going to go over what it is, what it pertains to, and why it's important that you have this. You cannot skip any of these accounts, and this one especially is extremely important, not only for what you want to create in your life as far as awesome, epic stuff, but also for that unexpected shit that just happens in life. And I want you to write true down below if you have had some sort of unexpected emergency or financial need in your life so far. Okay, maybe you had an unexpected trip to the ER, maybe you had an unexpected automobile, something or other. Put yes below if you know what I'm talking about, when money comes your way that you're not stoked about having to pay out, but you know you got to do it. Okay, and then the last thing is I'm going to share with you what's called the snowball method, but I'm going to share it with you with a twist. A lot of people have heard of the snowball method in order to pay back your bad debts. However, they don't have quite the system tied in with like the richest man in Babylon and the rest of the Financial Freedom Nation. So I'm going to teach you that today. So if any of you have any credit cards or loans on your automobiles, or even if you have a mortgage, this is going to pertain to you. Okay? Let's get in and do a quick review of what we had gone over last week. And actually, before we hop into that, I want to actually do a review over all of the accounts so we can get a reminder of what it is that we are working on. Okay, so clearly we are in the Financial Freedom Nation course. You know, so far we've discussed the most important jar, which is the pay yourself first jar, which is financial freedom system, which a recommended 10% of every dollar you earn would go into that bucket, that account that you've already got set up. And if you guys got all of your action items done from last week, give me a bunch of thumbs up, and we appreciate you guys all hopping on. Remember, do not share this stream, okay? Do not share the stream. It's only for this group specifically, okay? Second thing, the second jar I want to remind you of is our Financial Freedom Education jar, okay? This bucket, this account, I recommend 5 to 10% of every dollar you earn go back into this account. That's where you fund learning about your financial freedom and other personal developments inside of your life. Number 3, which we're going over tonight, is your Financial Freedom Savings account. This is where we get to pay for epic stuff in our life and the unexpected stuff of our life. Then we're going to go over giveaway and our fun account, our necessities, and our country donations. So far, congratulations, and give yourselves a bunch of reactions right now if you already have taken the first week's action item and got these accounts set up and established. That is the number one step by the time we finish this course that is actually going to launch you forward into creating the habit of following the financial freedom system. Okay? Just getting the account set up. And last week, as we went over the financial freedom system and the financial freedom education accounts, those two accounts, by now you should have already made your first deposit and determined how much money you're going to be putting into these two buckets. And by the end of tonight, yep, you guessed it, by the end of this video, you're going to have a dollar amount that you're committed to on your financial freedom savings, that every time you receive money, money will go to that account. And with time, you can see action on that item. Money is going to build up in those accounts, and then you use it specifically for that financial freedom system or whatever account that you're playing into. Okay? Now let's hop into some more of what we had learned last week really quickly. Oh, I'm actually here the other way. In week 2, what we went over was the Financial Freedom Nation account. So we went into that in detail, and you guys determined that percentage. Also, we went over the education account, and you guys determined that percentage. The action items for last week that we're going to hop into. Did you get them done? I just want to review these really quickly with you and what your commitments have been. So last week, your action items were get those things determined, read and listen to the Rich Dad Poor Dad, have your financial freedom numbers that I saw a lot of you guys post in the group. How many dollars per month? How many dollars per year? Now, I want you to not worry about if this is a believable number or not. What I want you to think about is, wouldn't it be nice if I had $5,000 per month or $60,000 per year or whatever number you wrote down? I want you to just imagine what it would be like if every single day you woke up and you could fog the mirror and money was still paying you. Because that's literally what, when you build the Financial Freedom Nation and follow the system, that's literally what will happen throughout your life. And then obviously the most important time of the week, which was schedule your financial freedom management time. When are you going to sit down on a weekly basis, or I would even recommend at first a daily basis, even if it's just for 5 minutes, to be reviewing your accounts and making sure that the cash flowing into you and flowing through you is flowing into the right direction. Cool. So now let's remember our commitments. Who can tell me, just by posting in the comments right now, what the commitments were? Start posting them. We're going to review them right now. As soon as I get to the page, give me a second. Awkward silence. Okay, here we go. Now each week, I just want you guys to be able to recommit. If you remember correctly, when you signed up and you applied to be a part of the Financial Freedom Nation, there were several commitments that I had asked you to commit to before you even filled in the entire application and be able to even put your money in to join the Financial Freedom Nation. Why is that? Because as you guys can see, there's probably, I don't know, just over a dozen people on this live stream, and then I know a lot of you guys will watch it recorded, and we have though 72 right now at the time of this video. Right now I'm recording it, 72 people that have joined the Financial Freedom Nation. And so that tells me there's a lot of people that have spent some money on this course. Okay, but what I'm not seeing is everyone living up to these commitments, okay? But I can tell you, if you can walk away every single week fully committed, all in, level 10, your life will change forever financially. Number one is participate. How do we participate? By giving a lot of reactions, by commenting on this video, by making sure that you're watching this 2 times per week. How many times? 2 times. Write that in the comments below. And then make sure that you are sharing your ahas with others in the group and other people on your Facebook group or in your Facebook. As you guys know, my mission is very, very simple. Number 1, create massive value for you. Number 2, empower you to take action on the assignments or the action items I give you each week, okay? Number 3, empower you and invite you to share this message with other people. And then the final, most important thing that ties all this together is massive freaking action. See, if I give you all this information, if I share with you to get the account set up, if I share with you the percentages, if I ask you to commit to a dollar amount that's going in, and I get all these things set up for you, but yet you don't take the step forward, you don't open the accounts in your bank, you don't put the percentage down on your money management system, you don't sit down and review your money, it's you that has the problem at the end of the day. I'm simply giving you the solution to create financial freedom. So if you are committed, whether watching this live or recorded, I just want you to remember that right now and put into the comments, yes, I am committed. And I love seeing the post below around the word massive action. Not only inside of this training course, but also inside of every aspect of your entire freaking life is going to revolve around massive action. Are you taking it or are you avoiding it? Because the winners in life, and trust me, there are winners and there are losers, but the winners are the ones taking the massive action. So how many of you guys are super stoked, super excited to get into week 3 so that we can discover the difference of bad debt versus good debt? And we can understand what the point is of our financial freedom savings account for spending, and ultimately how to protect ourselves not only from having an average life and living epically, but being able to take care of those items that just are unforeseen that pop up in our everyday life when it's least expected, wanted, or warranted. And then finally, I want to share with you guys the method that helped me clear out of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of credit card debt, automobile loans, and wasted money on liabilities that I just didn't even know, that I felt so consumed, I felt I would never ever get my debt paid off, let alone become financially free like I am today. So if you're ready for that, give me a bunch of reactions and put yes in the comments, and let's rock and let's roll. If you notice, I haven't even had to pull out. Ooh, wait, real quick. I want to spit this at you. Just remember, what is your money personality type, okay? If you're a money monk, a spender, avoider, a saver, a hoarder, or masser, be aware every week, every step of the way of what you are, especially you avoiders. By now, week 3, a lot of this information can become overwhelming to you such that you want to step away and avoid it. And for you that are spenders, you're saying, well, shoot, I got to be a little restricted on my spending. You might not like to have the fact that you have a certain amount of dollars that you can spend and can't spend, okay? But at the end of this, I want you to be very aware of which characteristics you have and how you can use them to your advantage, okay? Way back. Boom, 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 boom. Also, if you guys did not see the bonus video from last week, make sure to watch it. I really opened up some really cool stuff that is going to help you in managing the flow of your money inside of the accounts, especially if you're a small business owner or a self-employed person or a person that has an S-Corp, and even if you are an employee that works and has a W-2 for a corporation or for the government, okay? I explained really, really clearly how the flow of the dollars work, and I mapped it out right here on the board, okay? So let's get into it. What is the difference of good debt versus bad debt? Did you already know that bad debt is going to come your way, but also not all debt is bad? See, it's very interesting for us to learn and to understand from the time that we were just little kids, coming from our mother's womb and growing up, whether we lived in a middle-class family, a rich family, or an extremely poor family, the beliefs, and we know that from our financial blueprint, the beliefs that we received are what we took into our adult lives and the actions that we're taking today for the most part, and then they're reinforced over time, right? One of those beliefs that I was taught was, you know what, even at the age of 14, I wanted to be able to get a motorcycle or a four-wheeler, right? I had been using dirt bikes my entire life since I was probably 5 years old, And you know what? I wanted to get on a quad for some reason. And so at the time I was looking at, I think it was called the Yamaha Blaster. I wanted a brand new. And I remember it was built in 2000. The year that I bought it, it was like 1999. I would have been like 15 years old, 14 years old, something like that. Okay. Not quite 2000, or not quite 16 yet. So I couldn't drive a car, but all of my friends in the neighborhood, we'd cruise around our motorcycles, and I wanted to be on my brand new four-wheeler, right? I didn't have, I think at the time, it was like $3,000 to be able to buy a brand new four-wheeler. And my parents, they didn't have a ton of extra money to spend on four-wheelers and stuff for me as well. I literally was riding an old 1982 Yamaha MX100 up to that point that literally was worth about the wheels that it ran on, okay? But now I wanted to get a four-wheeler. And the only way I could get that is if I was able to get a loan. Now, remind you, I barely had a job making $6.25 an hour, which is not a lot of money if you're adding it up per hour. I literally would spend 1 hour's worth of wages on my lunch and sometimes more because I was hungry. I'd buy like 2 or 3 meals when I go to McDonald's on my lunch break for my $6.25 an hour job. But I really wanted this four-wheeler. And my dad took me to the credit union and he actually co-signed on a loan for me to get a four-wheeler. So before I really even had a real job, I started to take on bad debt in the sense that I borrowed $3,000 to get a four-wheeler that would lose massive value, especially after I wrecked it and rolled it down a hill, right? And all of a sudden now I was still paying interest on this money, okay? I want you to take a guess in the comments below how much that 2000, it was built in 2000, Yamaha Blaster is worth today. Take a wild guess and write down below how much that four-wheeler is worth today. I'm just going to wait for a few of the answers and I'm going to come back to it. But let's start to understand what is good debt and what is bad debt. Bad debt is this four-wheeler, okay? It is a liability. So if you remember, last week we talked about assets and liabilities. Someone said $300, someone else said $50, someone said $500. I think $500 is being generous. I think we can all agree that the four-wheeler is worth way less than I paid for it, which was $3,000 plus interest. So is that an asset or a liability? Post your answer below, okay? Bad debt is what buys us liabilities, okay? Something that takes money away from us if you remember what a liability is, okay? Car, that is a liability. A boat, that is a liability. Personal residence, believe it or not, and I'm so grateful that you as students inside of my course are starting to wrap your mind around this, your personal residence, your house, it is a liability. It takes money from you. In fact, it's interest that's going away from you. I do want you to understand if you rent, which is not a bad option by the way, that also is a liability. Like your place where you pay out every single month, whether it's owned or rented, is a liability. I don't want you to get this confused what everyone else is teaching that it is an asset, okay? Now you could actually turn your personal residence in. I'm going to take a time out for a second. Turn into a small asset, or portion of it could be an asset in the sense that if you have a basement with like a mother-in-law apartment or a kitchen and where you could actually rent square footage from your house out, or if you've seen the app Airbnb, you could actually switch your personal residence or a portion over it to being a good debt situation. For example, there is a friend of mine who is a lender who has a 5,000 square foot Rambler, so 2,500 square feet in his basement, fully finished, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a full kitchen down there, and guess what? He rents that entire space out for about $1,200 a month. Now can you see how he turned that into an asset? It's because now money comes into him versus going out. So bad debt is credit cards, student loans, any type of revolving debt where you're going to be paying a high amount of interest. Now, cars and personal residence, if you have great credit and a great payment history, there's a good chance you can have an interest rate as low as 3%, or personal residence, for example, my mortgage currently is 4%, okay? But here's what's important. Yeah, that's right, I have a personal mortgage still, and yet I'm financially free. Because this old adage of having to own your house for free and clear is one of those middle-class lies that everyone's been taught from the time we were little kids. Grow up and buy your house and have it paid for free and clear. In fact, I can tell even to this day, as my dad just retired, he's a little bummed that his house isn't paid off and he's still got probably 7 years left. And I think he's paying like 2.25% interest rate because he did a 10-year loan about 3 years ago or something like that, okay? But I want you to think about this, and I know we had this conversation inside of one of the threads, is one person said that they want to have their house paid off in 8 years. Now, as much peace of mind as it does give you to not have to make a mortgage payment and have that giant debt owed to someone, where else could you put that money? Say your house, for example, my house is worth roughly $500,000 and I owe roughly $370,000 on it. There's $130,000 equity in there, which means I still have $370,000 that I'm paying roughly 4% on, okay? But I want you to think that $370,000, where else could I put that money that I could make more than 4% on? So let's talk about good debt, right? These are assets, rental properties, business loans, Airbnbs, maybe being able to invest in upgrading things for your business, such as maybe your branding or maybe your lead generation, which is the most important of businesses to have leads generated. Doesn't matter what it is, but this is the type of debt that's going to actually allow money to come back into you. It's cash flow. That's the name of the game, is how do you get to be more like the bank, charging other people interest and everyone else paying you the interest versus you paying interest to other people or to the bank. That's the name of the game. So give me a bunch of thumbs up and write yes in the comments below if you're following what I'm saying, and I appreciate all the comments happening. I need to make sure that we follow our commitments inside of this course and participating at a very high level. So thank you for doing that, okay? So coming back to the idea of the personal residence. I have $370,000 borrowed at 4%, but guess what, guys? On my rental properties, I own those free and clear. On my rental properties, I'm getting over 12% return on that investment. And you know what? I literally bought one of my rental properties for $34,000, and today it appraises for over $70,000 just 2 years later. I have been able to double that same amount of money. Now, I want you to think about this. If I had that same money inside of my personal residence and didn't have that mortgage, yeah, I would be saving 4% on my mortgage that I don't have to pay. And we can argue the fact that having that mortgage gives me a tax write-off, but I do believe that's middle-class thinking. But at the end of the day, if I can now, for $370,000, get 12% return on that money in other asset classes, can you see how my money will work for me further if I'm able to leverage that money and turn a liability into an asset? Is everyone following what I'm going over right now? Put yes in the comments if you get it, and give me a bunch of thumbs up and a heart if you understand. And if you do not, give me some angry faces so I can explain this a little bit differently to make sure we are crystal clear on understanding good debt versus bad debt. Cool? Awesome. I'm getting a bunch of thumbs up. Means we're going in the right direction here. Well, what is our financial freedom savings account? And I do have to pull out my iPod for this one because, well, I made some notes here that are really important for you guys to understand. So, the purpose of the financial freedom savings account, I want you to think of it as financial freedom savings account for spending. Wait. Hold on, I just saw some angry faces. That tells me that someone is not understanding this concept here. So let's go back, and if you're the one that wrote the angry face, please write in the comments below what you're not understanding. Let's go back and just revisit bad debt, simplified. Your car, you have probably a 3 to 5% interest rate on it. Credit cards, you have probably a 8 to 12% interest rate on the credit limit, the credit line that you borrowed on your credit card. Student loans, you have a percentage of money that's being charged for you to borrow this money, okay? So for example, the four-wheeler example, I borrowed $3,000 at probably about 8% interest because it was a recreational vehicle. Now all of a sudden, I had to pay back the $3,000 plus the 8% to where I own the four-wheeler that is today worth almost nothing. Whereas let's say instead of investing that $3,000 into a four-wheeler, but yet I put it as a down payment on, let's say, a small condo that I could use as a rental property, that now maybe I am paying 4% or 5%. I think the first one that I bought was about 6.5%, maybe 7% in the early 2000s. The first property I bought was about 2005 or 6 or something like that. But let's say I bought one in 2000 and I put $3,000 down, and the property cost me at that time, let's say $50,000, and I'm charged 7% interest, right? So I'm actually paying more interest for that condo than I am the four-wheeler. But guess what that condo is worth today? That condo is worth roughly $70,000. Not to mention, over the last 17 years, I used it as a rental. Someone paid me money to live there. At what point the principal of that mortgage was paid down by someone else, not by me. Plus, I was charging way more than 7% for that person to be there. So that is considered good debt. Good debt pays me. Bad debt, I pay someone else. Good debt pays me. Bad debt, I pay someone else. Are we clear on that now? Bad debt, you pay someone else. Good debt, you're getting paid. Good debt lines up with assets. Assets are what pay you. Bad debt lines up with liabilities. Liabilities take money from you and just literally suck your wealth from you. Not to say that you cannot have liabilities, but imagine if now I wanted to get a car, instead of just paying $15,000 for that depreciating liability, right? Everyone calls it a depreciating asset. No, it's a depreciating liability. It takes money from you. It's not a freaking asset. An asset brings money to you, right? So instead of taking 15 grand to put it down on a car, I take 15 grand and use it as a down payment for a rental property that creates me, let's say, $700 a month in passive income. I can now pay for that automobile loan, right? You have to have a car to drive. You have to have a house to live. In fact, if you're here, why not have epic stuff and enjoy your life, right? I will make a side note though. Once your basic needs are taken care of, like you have food in your belly, a roof over your head, you have transportation taken care of, once you have these basic needs, and our basic needs are so simple now, it doesn't really, by adding more stuff and more money, change your happiness all that much. I want you to be very aware of that money does not amplify your happiness. It amplifies your characteristics. Everyone's good. We got on here. Good net pays me. Bad debt, I pay. Awesome. Super simple. So if you're still confused, please message me at the end and let's have a one-on-one conversation, because I want to make sure that you get this concept, okay? So going back to the next section. What is the financial freedom savings account for spending? And I wrote this down, a very awesome definition to help get really clear, because we know that this is a cash flow system. We're just managing the flow of our cash as it comes to us and then it leaves us, okay? So the purpose is to have the money flow into a direction that goes towards saving to buy liabilities, unexpected emergencies, and pay off debt. That's right, guys. I'm telling you to create an account that is specifically to buy liabilities, which is bad debt. It's okay to have bad debt as long as you have more good debt in your life. So let's look at then how much of our percentage do I recommend going to this, okay? Now, a lot of you probably already are having a bunch of bad debt in your life if you're like I was just 4 or 5 years ago, okay? I was making great money, but if you remember, one of the stories that I shared early on is when I was 24 years old, I was really not the best at managing my cash flow at that point, and I was into another lifestyle, and I had spent over $1,500 in one day, $1,500 in one day in online gambling, all while I was high on drugs that day. That sounds like a pretty stupid investment, and quite honestly, it was a terrible investment. But looking forward now, I know that I was able to actually reverse that by following this system, and now even more so, live an epic life, to live in a fantastic house, to travel to first class luxury vacations with my family, to be able to have nice vehicles for me and my wife, to be able to do things that average people just aren't able to do. But I can tell you it's because of following this system and putting money aside, okay? So I recommend 8 to 10% goes away. How many? Write that below. 8 to 10% goes into your financial freedom savings account. Now, as your income grows, your revenue grows from passive and residual income, and as you tend to grow your working income just because you start hustling more and you get excited to be in more control of your financial world, this percentage can actually begin to drop down a little bit. Let me give you an example. This year's revenue for me and my business will be roughly $750,000 to $800,000, which is quite a bit of money. 10% of that is $75,000 to $80,000. Now, I really don't want to spend $75,000 to $80,000 on luxury stuff and vacations and things like that. I would rather be reinvesting that into my financial freedom account so that I can continue to grow my passive and residual income to where one day $75,000 to $80,000 will be a drop in the bucket to what I will be able to spend on the things that I need. I mean, let's be honest, over 12 months, to spend $75,000 to $80,000, you can do some really epic stuff, and you can be prepared for some really unexpected items in your life. So now I actually dropped it down. Wait, guys, I dropped it down a whole 1% to 9%. So now I'm only spending $65,000 to $70,000 per year on living an epic life. But guess what? It's part of my plan. I don't have to feel guilty for taking my family to Costa Rica for 21 days, or I don't have to feel guilty for going to buy a brand new Land Rover for my wife, or I don't have to feel guilty for flying first class. I don't have to go purchase a Southwest ticket that stops in Phoenix first just to fly to LA, and my 1.5 hour flight turns into a 6 hour travel, right? I don't have to think that way because clearly I have saved up and managed my cash flow in such a way that if I want to fly first class, even if it's a waste of freaking money, I can fly first class. You get what I'm saying? So by the end of tonight, I want you to start thinking right now, but by the end of this, I want you to determine a percentage that you are committed to putting aside and putting into your financial freedom savings account. Now I want to share with you, hold on, take a quick break while I grab me my beverage. As you know, sponsoring once again the delicious green drink. Good to go. So I want to go over, what do you actually use this money for? You've heard me talk about a lot of fun stuff that I do, and I don't very often share a lot of not so fun stuff that we have to pay for in life, right? So the first thing is that this account is set up for to use and pay for are your liabilities. This is your house that you live in, the car that you drive, the vacations you go on, maybe some recreational vehicles if you like, what are those side-by-side four-wheel things, or if you like to have boats, or you like to have, a good friend of mine, he loves to go RVing across the country, right? So he has a really nice camp trailer that he can pull behind a super nice truck, which together they're probably worth $100,000, which is a bunch of liabilities, but using this system, it's okay to have some liabilities that you can go enjoy. Life is about enjoying. Just understand, to have those items, you have to have a limit on them if you want to follow a financial freedom savings, or if you want to follow the Financial Freedom Nation's system in order to grow your passive residual income. At some time, you've got to start putting some of that investment somewhere else. So buy this stuff, enjoy this stuff, but just have a limit on it. Don't go overboard and spend all of your money on that. Another part of this item that the Financial Freedom Savings Account is specifically designed for are life's unforeseen emergencies, okay? This includes medical emergencies. How many of you maybe have had some medical emergencies in your life that you weren't prepared for and not even excited to pay for? Maybe you had to have that root canal, or you had that broken bone, or your daughter had the broken collarbone, or maybe you had to have some weird, like, I'll give you an example. When my daughter Lennon was probably about 6 months old, I was actually sitting in a training course learning about more financial freedom stuff, where I got a text message from my wife that our daughter, at the time 6 months old, was having several seizures and kind of just freaking out all weird. And you know, I don't know about you guys, but as a parent, when my daughter starts having seizures, I just don't understand what's going on, and it causes some fear. So what's the next logical step to do? Well, let's crush the fear. Let's take some action. Let's get her to a doctor that knows what the frick she's doing. Anyways, by the end of it, to fast forward the story, my daughter had gone to 2 different emergency rooms only to find out that she had some neurological, not necessarily disorder, but just a small tic that was happening from her nerves that were growing throughout her little body that had been developing. Us as parents did not know that. But by the end of that, I'm so grateful that everything was okay. but I had a bill to pay to 2 different emergency rooms that cost me $3,600. Okay. Another example is when we were flying home from Costa Rica just a few months ago. My daughter had, and this is kind of gross, guys, but I'm going to share with the story. I want you to understand how real this is. The same daughter, who's now 2 years old, she started having bloody bowel movements. And I want you to think, if your child less than 2 years old is having a bowel movement that is full of blood that looks like disgusting hamburger meat, and you're stuck in Atlanta, what are you going to do? You're probably going to take your kid to the hospital, which we did, and we found out while we were there that she had contracted E. coli while we had stayed in Costa Rica. But E. coli is not the end of the world. We were able to treat it the best possible way, and she's healthy and she's fine now. But to get that medical service, which is a medical expense, we had to pay for it. Where did that money come from? Another thing is home maintenance. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but it costs money to take care of your grass, to take care of your garden, to take care of your roof, your air conditioning unit, your carpet, your stuff. And if you have little kids, they're banging stuff up, you have to maintain that and clean that up as you go, right? Like, it costs money to own a house. Travel delays. Part of that same story, flying home from Costa Rica, I happened to be part of the whole catastrophe with Delta. If you guys haven't heard about it, in 1 day's time, they had canceled over 3,000 flights, which left me, my 2 daughters, and my wife stranded in Atlanta, Georgia for about 5 days total. But guess what? I had my financial freedom savings account. It cost me $2,500 unexpected dollars to stay there, simply because we said, hey, if we're going to be stuck in Atlanta, let's just extend the vacation. We stayed at the Ritz-Carlton. We stayed at the JW Marriott. We went to the Georgia Aquarium. We ate nice, fantastic cuisines. We spent time enjoying that time. But there were a lot of people had that same exact delay as me, and they had to stay sleeping on the floor at the airport, or they had to stay at the Motel 6 where they leave the light on for you, and that's simply because you need to see to step over the dead bodies to get to your room, right? My point is if you're able to use this account wisely for unexpected expenses as well, your life is going to be simplified. Now, trust me, I still wasn't stoked that my flight got canceled and I stayed there and spent an extra $2,500. But the $2,500 was like raindrops rolling off on my back as if I were a feather, or if I had a bunch of feathers just like a duck. It's that's the power of being able to flow your money correctly, so that when those unexpected emergencies pop up, you don't feel like a worthless person and depressed and unhappy for having to deal with them. You just say, hey, it is what it is, but thankfully I ran my accounts properly that I can easily pay for it, okay? And then the final part of your financial freedom savings account for spending is to pay off your bad debt, to pay off your credit cards, those line of credits that you might have racked up, or if you do want to pay off your mortgage, put it towards paying off your mortgage, paying off your auto loans. I don't have this written on here, but paying off your student loans. So the third section of your financial freedom savings account is to start paying off the bad debt so that you can start growing the good debt. And if you remember, bad debt, I pay someone else. Good debt, I get paid. Bad debt, I pay someone else. Good debt, I get paid. So those are the 3 really important reasons to make sure that by the end of tonight, you decide how much you're going to put inside of your financial freedom savings account for spending, so that when those unexpected emergencies pop up, you can whoop out your money and you can pay for it no problem. Or when you want to buy that new Land Rover, you can buy that new Land Rover, or whatever it is that you're into. Go spoil yourself and understand it's okay to have liabilities as long as you're growing your good debt first and a lot faster than your bad debt. Awesome, guys. I want you to start writing down some of your questions, because here in just a little bit, we're going to get to the Q&A portion. Tonight's class, well, let's see. We are going to be as long as I thought, longer than I expected, okay? Financial Freedom Nation, third part. Get ready to ask some questions here in a few, because as soon as we go over through the snowball repayment program, which is a whole method to pay off your bad debt, then we're going to go into the questions and answers and get some more clarity for you guys, okay? Stay with me. Give me a bunch of thumbs up. Write yes below if you're learning something. Give me a bunch of reactions so I can tell if this is value creation for you, or give me a bunch of angry faces is this is just worthless information that you're getting from me, okay? So what is the Snowball Debt Repayment Program? Okay, first of all, the first step in the debt debt program is you're going to make a list, okay, of all of your bad debt. See, that's one of the things that avoiders are great at doing that. Or if you don't have a financial freedom system in place, you probably don't even know how much total debt that's bad that you have and how much you owe and how much you're paying each and every month. So the first step to the snowball debt repayment, and actually your action item by the end of tonight is to create this list, is you're going to list all of your debt, all of your bad debt from your smallest ones to your biggest ones. And I'm going to go over an example with you in just a second, okay? Next is decide to continue to make your minimum payment on all of the debt except for your smallest debt. You're going to pay extra on your smallest debt, and you're going to pay half. That's right, pay 1/2 of the amount that you're paying into your financial freedom savings account. So for example, if you are paying $1,000, let's say by the end of the night, you determine that the amount of dollars you're paying per month into your financial freedom savings account is $1,000, you're going to take that $500, which is 1/2 of that, and you're going to apply it to your smallest debt that's on your list. And you're going to continue to do that over and over again till your debt is paid off. But each credit card or each debt you get paid off, you're going to actually apply what you're paying to the one debt now on to the next debt. Let me give you an example just so I can be really clear on this, okay? So let's say we've got a credit card with $500 balance. If that's you, if you have a credit card with a balance, I want you to put some reactions up and put yes below, and don't be afraid because we've all been there. In fact, by what I can tell from this application process for this course is 90% of you probably fall into this category that you got a bunch of bad debt. And step number 1 is be aware and be authentic that yes, you have some bad debt that needs taken care of. True or true, okay? So be aware. So my credit card has a $500 balance, and my payment on that is a minimum payment of $50 a month. I also have some medical bills totaling about $2,000, and I owe $75 a month for a payment on that $2,000. A third thing that I have might be some furniture store credit. Like, I don't know if you guys have RC Willey's where you're at, but we're at RC Willey's is a really large furniture store where it's very easy to walk into and buy some new appliances because they've got these 0% interest offers for 18 months. Next thing you know, I'm 48 months into this thing, and now my debt is like 12% paying for my new refrigerator or my new bedroom set, right? So let's say you've got $5,000, and I see this all the time. I wouldn't bring this up unless I didn't see it being in real estate. $5,000 of debt at your furniture store, and your payment on that, let's say, is $150 a month, okay? And then the fourth thing is a car loan. If you're like me, you drive a car. More than likely, you get in behind a wheel and you have to drive somewhere throughout your day. And if you're like most Americans, you actually have a loan on this car. Now, I recommend, and this is a little bit of a side subject, either own your car free and clear, right, so you don't have to have that type of liability payment, which still understanding your car's a liability, or own a business and have your business lease a car. You can have way better tax incentives, but that's a whole nother subject, okay? But for $7,500 you owe on a vehicle and your payment is $200 a month. So total in debt here, you've got, let's see, $2,500, what is that? Basically $15,000 in total debt with this example, okay? So what you're gonna do is this month, you're gonna pay minimum payments on all of your debt. But because you have your financial freedom savings account set up and you're paying $1,000 a month into that account, you're going to take exactly one half, right? 1/2 in the comments below so you get this. 1/2 of your financial freedom savings account, and you're going to apply it with your $50 a month payment on your credit card. Guess what? In month 1, you'll already have paid off your credit card. So now comes month 2. You're going to take that same $500, which is 1/2 of your financial freedom savings account, okay, plus the $50 from your previous credit card, that was the minimum balance, plus the $75 that you're paying already for your minimum payment for your medical bills, and you're going to apply that all towards your medical bills for a total of $625 going towards those medical bills. Fast forward, doing that same thing for the next 4 months. Within 3 to 4 or 5 months, you'll have now, probably in the first 5 months, you'll have your first 2 debts paid off. So now you've got $625 coming in from the half amount of your financial freedom savings. You've got all of the minimum payments on these two bills and credits debts that you have, and you're going to apply it now to your furniture store account. So $625 plus the minimum from your furniture store account is $775 that you're going to apply over the next 6 or 7 months, and then in 6 or 7 months you'll have that debt completely paid off. Now you're going to get your car loan, and you're going to take that $775 from all of this that you're applying on these other debts, and you're going to apply all of that plus the $200, which is roughly $975 towards that automobile loan every single month. And after about 7 to 8 months, then you'll have that debt paid for. So within 24 months, you were able to pay back all of your debt just by setting up your financial freedom savings account and applying half of that towards paying off your debt. So put yes in the comments below if you understand the Snowball Debt Repayment Program and you understand it with the twist, because you might have heard of this before, but you didn't understand even having a financial freedom savings account to take half of that. Now, also while you're going over that 24 months, you're still applying $500 to your financial freedom savings account on top of this same amount of stuff you've been paying. 24 times 500 is roughly $12,000 that you can spend on some sort of long-term savings that you want to go spend money on. Maybe a trip to the Bahamas, maybe a new car, maybe you want to upgrade your kitchen in your house, whatever it is, but you've been setting the money aside to do that. So give me a bunch of reactions if you totally are stoked to get applying the Snowball Debt Repayment Program. This is the exact reason we also have Financial Freedom Nation coaching, because yes, this is a cool concept to get, but sticking to it, being able to be urgent about it, transparent about it, and extremely accountable with yourself to do this, sometimes it takes a coach to kick your ass along the way. That's exactly why we have Financial Freedom Nation coaching. Great, guys. Well, what we're going to do now is just wrap up with what our week 3 action items are. And then we're going to open it up to Q&A. So start posting your questions below. If you have any questions so far about tonight's lesson or anything to do with the Financial Freedom Nation. And just to reiterate, our action items from tonight are watch this 2 times. How many times? Write 2 in the comments below so I know that you're paying attention and you're participating. Watch it twice, because each time you watch it, you're going to hear something. You're going to see something that you didn't hear or see the first time through. And I would highly recommend that you do it with a notepad in front of you and start to jot down answers and questions that you might have to growing your financial freedom. Number 2 is remember to share your ahas. And this week, I want to step it up, guys. I want to see way more ahas being shared inside of the Facebook group so that we know we're actually taking the action. And in fact, it's been proven by studies that when you're sharing your ahas and your victories, you're more apt to remember them and internalize them as part of your new belief system for a financial blueprint. The next part is number 3 action item. I want you to decide and determine after this video how many dollars, what percentage will you commit to paying towards your financial freedom savings account every single time that you receive money, okay? And now, if you're already paying on bad debt, such as a car loan or medical bills, you could actually start to consider that dollar amount as going towards your financial freedom savings account. Unfortunately, it's not the way I'd want to continue to spend my financial freedom savings account. So if I were you, I would get rocking and rolling on the snowball repayment method so that I'm not paying all of my financial freedom savings account to bad debt, which is paying away from me because good debt pays towards me. Awesome. I already see one commitment for 10%. Love it. That means if you do have debt, 5% goes to your debt, 5% goes to the savings account, and it just chills there, okay? Next is, I want you guys to play Cash Flow 101. I put the link in the description of this video, and this is a really cool game. If you have an iPad or you have an Android, you can actually download the app straight to your phone. If not, you can play it on your computer, okay? You do need flash drive to play it if you do play it not on your iPad, okay? But Cash Flow 101 is a game that's talked about in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's one of my funnest games. It's like Monopoly on steroids. But before I could actually start buying properties, I didn't know what it was like to actually go through the process of creating good debt and bad debt. I just knew the how to create bad debt. And so I wanted to learn and see what it felt like to create that good debt. So Cash Flow 101 is a really cool game that you can play with your spouse or with friends, and you can do it online. And the concept of the game is you have a job and you have money just like you and I have, and you learn how to spend that money in such a way that you're creating positive cash flow, passive and residual income to help you create financial freedom. And how do you win the game? You win by creating financial freedom. So what better way to go out and play in the real life than play on the game where you can go make some mistakes and learn how to correct them for the next time you play. So the link is in there. Play it 3 times, guys. I want you to play it at least 3 times or more. Don't be afraid to play it more this next week. And then finally is, from last week, you had established a time frame that you're going to review your financial management system every single week. So continue that financial review, and a great time to do that review would be also to play cash flow, set up your snowball payment, come up with your answer to your financial freedom savings, write your ahas down. Like, this is the time to do it. And in fact, I'll probably make a bonus video here soon teaching you exactly how to have that meeting on your own so that you can review your finances. All right, guys, let's get to some questions. I want to see those. So I had, oops, I almost knocked this over. One question is from Michael. Savings account would incorporate your mortgage, car, etc., or would it be in your necessities account? Fantastic question. So for me, all of those items actually fall into my necessities account. Like, I need a place to live. I need a car. I need those things, right? But if you want to have that debt repayment program to actually pay those down, then it would fall into your long-term savings account. If you don't have a plan to pay those back, which is okay, you don't have to pay your bad debt back if you don't want to. I wanted to because number one is I didn't like the idea of having an automobile payment if I didn't have to. I definitely didn't want a credit card with 10%, 12% interest on it, right? So I started to analyze which one of my debts were really high percentages and which ones were low percentages. So for my house, that's a bad debt, obviously, because it takes money from me, but it's only 4%. So instead of me paying that off, I'm just taking that extra money and I'm actually allotting it elsewhere to buy rental properties or stocks or other things that are making me anywhere from 12 to 20% return on my money. Did that answer your question right? Yes, Michael. If not, then we can have a one-on-one chat and I'll help you get more clear. Another question is, should I borrow against my personal home that is free and clear to pay off rentals or get mortgages? Is there a big difference in interest rates? Great question. So I probably personally, Melanie, would not take, if I own my house free and clear, I probably wouldn't go borrow against that on a normal, like, high level to be able to go pay off, say, some investments, right? Like, I'm not going to go, I see people do this all the time. They'll get a really big line of credit on their house, and then when the opportunity comes up to do a fix and flip, they'll go do it. Now, fix and flips are really a high risk type. It's really a business, not necessarily an investment, because you still have to do the work. An investment is passive, right? So if it were your personal residence and you were going to go do like a fix and flip, I probably wouldn't. But if you have real estate properties that you own free and clear, like a rental property, and you have plenty of cash flow, you can then start to use the power of leverage through those mortgages in order to buy 3 or 4 more rentals. For example, let's say you have $100,000 and you own 2 rentals free and clear at $50,000 each. Or you could take that $100,000 and you could put $10,000 down on 10 rental properties, and now you own 10 of them, okay? See, my personal strategy when I started buying rentals free and clear is my first ones, I wanted to have a base amount that when I was laying in bed at night, Melanie, and the sewer line broke, that my other 3 rental properties or 4 rental properties could actually pay to get that sewer line fixed. Versus had I done the approach where I took $10,000 and bought 10 properties, now I don't really have a ton of extra cash flow if I'm highly leveraged with my debt, right? I'm probably barely breaking even on my cash flow at that point. So therefore, when that sewer line broke, Guess who's paying for that? Yep, that's right. I am. I'm paying for it out of my financial freedom savings or out of some other account. I have to cover that, right? So for me personally, I wanted to own several of them free and clear at first so that I didn't have to have the pressure of how do I pay for it if one goes vacant or if one has a problem. Now, if you want to have a little bit more one-on-one conversation, I would say reach out to me as well. I can help give you some feedback on what I would do, so send me a message. But along that being said, I personally like to keep at least minimum 20% equity in my personal residence, probably even safer anywhere from 70 to 50% equity. Why is that? Well, if I'm ever in a pinch and I gotta sell my house quickly, I wanna make sure I can sell it for more than I owe on it. And quite honestly, we're in a great real estate market today, but in 2008 and 2009, we weren't in such a great real estate market. People that had 20% equity now all of a sudden have negative 20% equity. And if you're in a pinch and you have to start liquidating your liabilities, you cannot sell it if you owe on more than it's worth. Whereas at least if you own that liability free and clear, you could unload it quickly if you had to, and you could get some capital to go do whatever you need to do. Hopefully that helps you out. And as far as interest rates on your home mortgage, depending on what you do, you can get a 30-year note for roughly around 4%. You can get a 10-year note for probably about 2.5%, 2.75%. If you're going to do an investment loan, you're going to probably have somewhere closer to, I just did a 5.5% on a 20-year note for one of my rental properties, right? So 5.5 to probably 6%, which is going to be prime plus 2, maybe 2.5 points if you're going to do an investment property. Whereas if it's your own personal residence, your rate is going to be significantly lower. Great question. So we have the question here. So you pay half of the amount left in your savings account after repaying the minimums of all your debt to the smallest debt. What if the minimum payments are more than 10% of your income and use all of the money? Well, then that's where you're going to probably have to sacrifice your savings, your financial freedom savings account, and you're going to have to apply all of that. You're going to have to manipulate some of your other accounts. And as much as I don't like to say this, you probably need to figure out inside of your budget where you can start getting rid of some of your liabilities, okay? So for example, if you're driving a 2016 Land Rover, you don't necessarily need a 2016 Land Rover. So it's probably time to consider downgrading in some of the items in your lifestyle so that you can keep those payments inside of this package, because you can see if your debt payments are exceeding that much money, that much percentage of your income, you're never actually going to get ahead. That's why it's important as we started this course to go through your budget and be very, very clear each week on your budget. And one of the rules of thumb that I follow is once a month, I ask myself, how can I reduce my expenses by 10%? Now, I can't always reduce them by 10%, but guess what? I can actually reduce them by not having things that I don't need anymore. Especially for you guys that are business owners, you tend to sign up for things here, or I've even seen some of you guys post about this. You didn't even realize that you were paying for some subscription you had until you became aware of it and looked at it. Let me give you an example. My mom had AOL back in the 90s, right? You know, remember the dial-up internet service? And clear into the early 2000s, I was like, Mom, why are you still paying for AOL? You don't even use it. She's like, well, I just need to call them and have them turn it off, blah, blah, blah. She was paying like 25 or 50 bucks a month for like 10 years on some stupid shit she didn't even use. So if you dig through your financial budget sheet, I bet there's stuff that you're not using or that you don't need. You don't need cable TV. You don't need Netflix. You don't need to have whatever it is you're spending money on all of your subscriptions. There's things that you can cut out in your life. You probably don't need a 5,000 square foot house. So if you've overextended yourself, it's start to cut yourself back a little bit and reduce those things that are going out. Hopefully this answers the question for you. If not, send me a message. We can work on this one-on-one. Awesome. Glad this is sinking in for you, Michael. Okay. Also, we've got here, that's why you want to be on the other end of the memberships, receiving end. Yes, that's exactly right. See, a membership program is one of the quickest ways to be able to create residual income. That's how I've been able to grow with Financial Freedom Nation, by having offers to you guys to then pay to learn this. Also, part of our Financial Freedom Nation coaching program is a membership program to where I can get paid over and over again. With that being said, I must deliver massive value to you or you're not going to make the payment. Just like Fearless Agent, it's a coaching and trading program that I have ownership in for real estate agents, okay? That is a residual-based membership that pays every single month so that I know money's coming in. And it's up to me and my partners to deliver massive value for those that are paying the membership. Does that make sense? Not to mention, you're going to be able to grow your financial freedom quicker with a residual-based income versus just a passive-based income. Either way, there's still golden eggs that the goose is laying. Just residual you have to maintain. Passive, there's way less maintenance involved. Great point. Thank you. Cool. I don't see any other questions, so if you guys do, post them now. Now, just to remind you, watch twice, share your ahas, decide your percentages. I already see a bunch of you that have decided on them, so congratulations. Get the snowball debt repayment in progress if you have bad debt, which I'm guessing is about 98% of you, and then get Cash Flow 101 and start playing it so you can start to understand what I mean by the cash flow system, and then continue each and every week your cash flow review. If you guys want access to the tool that allows you to manage your cash flow, let me know. We will be offering it to the entire group here soon so that you can make sure you have an easy, visible tool to work with in your financial review time to review your cash flow management. We had this question: would it be better to have 401k or an investment property? That's a great question, Martin, for your financial advisor. Whoops, as I knocked this down. That's a great question for your financial advisor. However, in my personal opinion, that I would say, to me, a 401k is the biggest hijacked system for the middle class that I've ever freaking seen. For example, if you have a 401k, more than likely you have someone managing that 401k that's going to place that money in a safe, risk-free investment known as a mutual fund. Mutual funds, actually you pay a lot of fees in there, whether it's to the management fee or it's even higher in the taxes. See, every time a mutual fund manager makes a trade inside and outside, you're not technically getting taxed because you're in a tax-free vehicle, but the fund has to pay tax on those trades. And guess whose money it is that they're trading? Yep, it's your money, right? It's everyone's money that's in the mutual fund that has to pay tax on that. And so even though they say it's tax-free, it's really not. You're paying tax. So let's say you're getting an 8% return, or at least that's what your financial advisor is telling you. By the time you take out the taxes and you take out the percentage that you're paying in fees, you're lucky to get maybe 3% return on your 401k money. There is a 401k self-direct, which that is a whole nother level. And to be able to learn about a 401k self-direct, you're going to use your Financial Freedom Education account, Michael, so that you can learn how to do a 401k self-direct. And because you have a 401k self-direct, you can actually use that money to go buy an investment property. Is that cool or is that cool? You can have both, but you have to educate yourself first on doing it. Which, remember too, there are 4 pillars to wealth: real estate, stocks and bonds, business, and what's the 4th one? Commodities, right? So we've got to make sure that we consume ourselves with all 4 of those. So stocks you can buy with 401k, real estate you can buy a 401k, but it has to be a self-direct. So I don't think 401k is the worst thing, but you got to be aware, where's your money sitting at? It's not just sitting in a 401k, it's actually sitting 1 or 2 extensions further from the 401k account. Cool. We had the question going back to week 2 bonus: is the Financial Freedom Savings Account a business savings account? Yes. In that video, I utilize it as a business savings account if I'm set up as a business owner. Why? Because when I pay some of that money to go pay off, let's say I want to buy a vehicle for the business. Now I'm paying that out pre-tax instead of post-tax, right? And at the very least, if you want to end up paying some credit card debt off that's personal, all you do is then you take a draw out on that money. But to be able to get that money, there's really cool tax incentives you can follow. One of them being the corporate rent tax, right? So if you have a corporation, you can actually rent your personal residence to your corporation 15 times or less per year, at which time it now becomes an expense for the business, but it doesn't get taxed as personal income because it's 15 times or less that you're using your personal residence as a rental property. So if you charge yourself $1,250 for each event for corporate rent, that's roughly $15,000 in personal income that you can apply to whatever it is you need to apply it to that isn't going to get taxed, plus it's an expense on the books. Now, I just want to remind you guys, I am not a tax consultant. These are own strategies that I've studied and I work with very closely with my tax accountant, and that's part of our Financial Freedom Nation coaching program. Is I actually bring in guys like my tax consultant that are highly skilled and educated in these to be able to help work these issues out for you guys. So any of you guys are interested in the Financial Freedom Nation coaching, just let me know in a personal message. I'm not offering it out in these videos, but I do want to make sure you know that it's very available for you guys. Great question. Is there a reason to pay the smallest amount first versus the highest interest rate? Yes, there is. It's because the amount of money is more easily payoffable when it starts with a smaller amount, right? I used to think the same way, that I wanted to pay off the one with the highest interest rate first, but just because there's a high interest rate doesn't mean that you can't negotiate with the bank to reduce that payment. If you're not already aware of that, you can actually call your credit card company and let them know, hey, is there any way, I'm really in over my head with debt, can we work any programs out there? A lot of banks, a lot of credit unions, a lot of credit cards have systems set up that you can either skip payments, 1 or 2 payments, or you can actually do maybe for 6 months or 12 months a reduced minimum payment, right? So that you can take and increase the amount that you're paying towards your smallest one. Because the sooner you get one off your books, then you can move to the next one. Then you can move to the next one. And then that snowball effect happens where the amount you're paying to each debt gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Whereas if you start on the highest interest rate one first, it's like paying off a big debt but throwing little snowballs at it. Whereas if you're paying the smallest one off first, you can make your snowball appear bigger, and each debt you pay off, your snowball does get bigger. So the time you get to the high interest rate one, that the snowball is really, really big, and you can just knock that debt out. Great question. Cool, guys. I think that's it. Unless I see any other questions pop up, I appreciate you being here for week number 3. Go take some massive action. I've never made any success in my life, especially when it comes to finances, if I haven't taken massive action. That means I had to make some sacrifices in my life. Instead of watching TV at night, I was working on this shit. I was reading books that educated me. I was playing Cash Flow 101. I was on a Friday night going through my budget versus going out to dinner and spending money that I probably didn't have. So my point is, if you want to change your results, change your actions and do it massively, because with massive action, you get massive result change in your life. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you. Watch for week 3 bonus coming out soon.